That is one hell of a combination. It's a Lamborghini, it's not a Q8. The one thing that's on my mind is, are these things reliable? Hey, my name is Andy, and today we're gonna be doing underrated, overrated Lamborghini edition. Let's go. So to kick things off, let's start with the Lamborghini Mura. Now the Mura was the first mid-engine car that Lamborghini had ever produced. Beautiful car that took inspiration from Lamborghini's longtime friend, Don Eduardo Mura. I think that this car is correctly rated. It's not underrated, it's definitely not overrated. This is a correctly rated Lamborghini. Next, we have the Lamborghini LM002, otherwise known as the Rambo Lambo. That's right. It also features a V12 that came straight out of the Countach of the day. Imagine that. Imagine having an SUV with an Aventador engine in it. That's incredible. And for that reason, this car is definitely underrated. I don't think it's talked about enough, and I think it is a really, really cool Lamborghini. Speaking of the Countach, next up we have the Lamborghini Countach. I think that this car is overrated. Now, that is because this car's performance never really lived up to the expectation, even to the point where you would order a Countach and the man at the dealership would be screwing in your rear wing. True story, look that one up. This car is unfortunately overrated. Now next up we have the Lamborghini Diablo. Initially designed by Lamborghini, but then later when Volkswagen Group bought Lamborghini, their input then started to seep into the Lamborghini design, as noted by the updated headlights, some of the refined features of the car. I think that the Lamborghini Diablo is actually quite underrated. It had the very famous Lamborghini V12 that traced its DNA all the way back to the Mura, and they're starting to go up in value. They're increasingly rare, so the Lamborghini Diablo is definitely underrated. Next up, we've got the Lamborghini Murciélago. Now, this car was very popular in the early 2000s and was actually the last Lamborghini V12 to come with a gated manual. Now imagine this, a 6-liter V12 and a 6-speed gated manual transmission with all-wheel drive. That is one hell of a combination, and the Murciélago is one hell of a car. Awesome car, absolutely underrated, and these things are starting to skyrocket in value. So if you had the money to, and I mean, I certainly, if I had the money to, would be buying one of these cars right now. Yeah, there's not much more I can say about this. Definitely an underrated car. Next up, we have the Lamborghini Gallardo. This car, I think it's overrated. I love the car, but there's a lot of them. I mean, you could get them as a manual and a roadster, which is pretty awesome, but they didn't really change the game because all of the cool features that came with it, like the all-wheel drive system, kind of came with the Murciélago before it, including the sequential semi-automatic transmission. That was also taken from the Murciélago. So this car didn't really move the game on, and unfortunately, it's overrated. Now, next up, we've got the Lamborghini Huracan. Again, I think this car is overrated, but purely based on the fact that it is a very, very well-known car. You go on YouTube, and what is every single influencer person driving? It's a Huracan. Now that's for a reason. It's a great car, so don't get me wrong. It's an amazing car, but we're talking about underrated versus overrated cars, and this car is definitely overrated. The Lamborghini Aventador. I think this car is correctly rated. Now, the Lamborghini Aventador was the first Lamborghini to use a different V12 engine. Now, it retains some elements from that original V12 that came all the way from the Mura, but it is now completely refined. This engine is not weak. It spits flames, it's insane, and I love it, but it is not the same engine that came in the Murciélago and all the V12 Lambos before it. Now, this car too has a lot of attention, a lot of hype, but it is a very cool car nonetheless. Correctly rated. Lamborghini Urus. This one's a tricky one. It's a cool car, but it uses the same architecture as the Q8. Now, before you go commenting away and saying, it's a Lamborghini, it's not a Q8, you gotta understand it shares the same platform as that Audi, the same engine as that Audi, and if it wasn't for the interior and you squinted while you were drunk, it would probably look like that Audi. Now, in saying that, great car, and would I pick the Lamborghini over the Audi? Absolutely. It's got Italian lettering and shit all over it. It's cool. But unfortunately, the Urus is overrated. Next up, we have the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. This car is absolutely underrated. It was co-developed with Boeing and uses space-age materials and technology. The seats are just pads on a metal frame. This car is incredible. No dash, just a little digital heads-up display. I think that this is a really, really cool car, and I wish it got more attention. They were very limited, super limited cars, but definitely deserves more attention than it got. And the Sesto Elemento is absolutely underrated. Next up, we've got the Lamborghini Centenario. I gotta say, in my last video, I think I said it was correctly rated. Lamborghini Centenario, correctly rated. But looking into this car a little bit more, I gotta say, it's actually a little bit overrated. The Centenario is an Aventador in drag. Now, amazing drag as it might be, better than anything on RuPaul's Drag Race, that's for sure. This car is definitely overrated. Would I pick this over the Aventador? Yes. Now, would you pick this over the Aventador? Comment down below, let me know. Next up, we've got the Lamborghini Veneno. I stick by what I said in my last video, and the Lamborghini Veneno is definitely underrated. By the way, you can check out that other video, Underrated, Overrated, Hypercars Edition, up here in the pop-out banner. It is an underrated car. I wish it had more attention, and it is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. It might not change the game as far as supercars go, but I mean, would you rather a Veneno or an Aventador? I know what I would pick. So the Veneno Roadster, still an underrated Lamborghini. Now, last but not least, we've got the Lamborghini Sian. Beautiful car, absolutely underrated. It is the first hybrid that Lamborghini has ever produced. And not to mention that, it looks astonishing. This car is amazing, extremely limited. There are currently 2 or 3 of these in the US. I'll put it up here. In fact, I'm actually gonna put a link to the TheStradman's video down below where he actually got to see the Lamborghini Sian in North America. Go and check that out. The one thing that's on my mind is, are these things reliable? We're still yet to see if these cars are reliable. I would like to think that they are. I'm gonna take the high road on this one because it is, after all, an Audi product and they're pretty good at producing cars. So let's say it's reliable, but I could be wrong and only time will tell. Now, let me know in the comments below which Lamborghini I've missed, and tell me which one's your favorite. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.